Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Karen Bonifilio, Inner Realms, Outer Journeys. We have a new guest on today, and we have not had this topic before. And I don't even know if you've heard of it. It's called, and if I say this wrong, Cardology. And this is Donna. Donna, say hello, and then I'll tell a little bit about you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Webb, and I'm a cardologer.
I know. And you're going, what's a cardologist? And to tell you the truth, I didn't know until about 2 weeks ago. And it is pretty darn cool. So let me tell you a little bit about Donna, and then she's going to tell you all about cardology. One, she's a practitioner of cardology. This is a study of an ancient science behind playing cards, you know, the kind you play poker with and all that. The key idea behind the science is that each person's birth date is associated with a birth card, which often gives insights into one's personality traits, past lives, and related karma, life lessons, potential challenges, and all overall life purpose from reading playing cards. And I have to tell you, I met Donna at a fair, and I was with Tracy, and Tracy knew all about it. So she wanted to sit down with Donna. And I kind of wandered off and came back, and Tracy was getting a really nice reading. And so I sat down and, oh my God, she blew me away with what she could do with her cards. So she's listed in the International Association of Cardology and as one of the top 40. Donna, that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Top 40. But what I really like about Donna is she gave up her career to explore her passion. She has a doctorate degree in education, and she applied cardology to effectively teaching children and young adults. As such, her main mission is to help adults guide children to their highest potential based on each of the child's unique personality trait. That is so cool for all the parents out there. They can help their kids. Towards this goal, Donna published a book. Do you have that book to show by any chance?
I do.
I love the colors. It's all the playing cards.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Unlocking the Potential of Children, How Cardology Can Help You Nurture the Development of a Child's Authentic Self. Donna, that is so cool. She lives in Portland, Oregon, where she coaches others on how to level cardology to navigate all aspects in one's life: parenting, career, financial, and health matters, potential moves and traveling, intimate relationships. She did tell me a little bit about that. And compatibility and other relational dynamics. I can tell you're a teacher by what you wrote. It's perfect. Okay, so Donna, I'm just gonna what inspired you to pursue cardology, and how did you begin your journey?
That's a great question, Karen.
Thank you.
So I began teaching students in inner city Houston, Texas, way back in the 80s. And I was teaching middle school students.
Oh.
So, but as I like to refer to them as fondly as the hormonally challenged.
Yes, yes.
And I did that one year, have a particularly tough group of kids that I was working with. And so one day over the weekend, I visited the Aquarian Age bookstore in downtown Houston. And my mindset was like, give me tools, anything,
help me,
something to help. And I don't know about you, but I've had the experience where books like talk to me. And this book was talking to me on the shelf saying, look at me, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled it out, and it was a book about cardology. And inside the book, it described all of the personality traits of each card. So, of course, I looked my card up. I happened to be associated with a Queen of Club playing card, which is called the Mother of Intuition card.
Wow.
My purpose is to serve my community as a queen, because queens serve, kings rule.
Mhm.
but serve through communication and knowledge. Well, you know, what do you do when you teach? That's what you're doing. You're serving your community through communication and knowledge. And so I read more about my card and I was like, wow, this is spot on. So I thought, well, gosh, maybe this could help me kind of like jumpstart my understanding of my students. So
That's
I bought the
great.
book. And then, you do as a teacher get all the birth dates of your students.
Mhm.
So I wrote down each kid's name on an index card, their birth date, what their cards were. And when I was interacting with my students, I would refer to those cards and my knowledge of what that card personality was all about. And I started to use that information in very simple ways, like seating charts, knowing the kids' cards, who to put next to each other. And then as I learned more about the cards and the personalities of all of my students, I started to use information about the cards to better work with relational dynamics between students, like conflict resolution.
Mhm.
Also, what educational strategies to use with different students based on their card, how to even like deal with just discipline issues. How do you approach that kid based on their card? What is the right approach? Should you softly get into that discussion or just be really direct? And their card
Mhm.
mattered when it came to that. And I
Wow.
found it just made me such a more effective teacher that I continued to learn more and more about the cards and apply it to my teaching. And then fast forward, I went back to school and got my doctorate degree and even was using it to better understand my college students.
That is seriously incredible. I wish I would have known about this when I was still teaching because I would have looked into it. That is so incredible. And you use it on all your students, and other people can use it on their children or relationships or family members. Wow. So, not in addition, sorry, I'm really excited about this. Just learning about yourself is how to get along with other people. I think I need your
Exactly.
book. I really do. Oh my gosh. Okay. Did you really notice a difference when you in your approaching kids and how they reacted to you and such?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Let me give you an example.
Oh,
So
please.
I had this one student. I'll just call her Allison, just to, keep confidentiality.
Hmm.
Um, and Allison was just really misbehaving a whole lot. Like she would just socialize. I'd be in the middle of instruction and she would just get out of her chair and walk over and start talking to a friend of hers.
You're
And she
kidding.
hadn't been doing that at the beginning of the year.
Wow.
So I looked at her card and I noticed that she's a nine of heart. And one thing that is interesting about a person who is a nine of heart birth card is oftentimes they experience some profound emotional disappointment, even an ending of a relationship um, in their childhood. And
Mm.
so I thought, well, gosh, I need to kind of look a little bit deeper here and question her and try and figure out what's going on with her.
Mm.
Also, I know that people who are heart cards, they're very relational. It's important to relate to them and speak kindly to them, include them, um, rather than, being really blunt or critical of them. They're very sensitive souls.
Hmm.
And so I knew that it would be better to have a discussion with her, not in front of her peers. So
Right.
I asked her if she would, that I wanted to talk to her. So I asked her if she would join me for lunch. So during the lunchtime, I just started probing, asking questions. What's going on in your life? Blah, blah, blah. Come to find that her dad had just passed away. He had had a heart attack, and I had no idea.
Her
The
mom
rest
didn't
of my
alert you.
teammate teachers didn't even know, but
Wow.
that indicates what, as I mentioned, a lot of Nine of Hearts deal with in their childhood, some kind of an ending of a relationship.
Okay.
And she was struggling. And so we started having like lunches together and just talking
Oh.
through um, that experience, but then also kind of looking for the silver lining of that experience, which is
Wow.
she was developing coping skills of how to deal with loss. And she was first and foremost a very relational person. People who are Nine of Hearts go on to be counselors as a
Mhm.
career because they've experienced a lot of relational endings and a lot of relational kind of experiences. And so I talked to her about how what she's going through could be leveraged as like a superpower. And after a couple
That's
months
cool.
of having these conversations, I actually recommended her to the counselor at school to be a peer
Yes.
counselor for her own, for her
Mhm.
own peers. And I talked her into doing it, and she just
Oh
thrived.
gosh, chills.
She just really turned around
Oh,
from that. And then when she left to go to high school, the very next year, she came and saw me when she started high school, just visited me after school. And she was like, told me how that whole peer counselor experience changed her life and how she was going to pursue that and how she even
oh,
maybe wanted to be a therapist
that's
when
so
she got
cool.
older. And I thought, that's right, because that's your card. That's a
Yeah, but
higher
she
man.
didn't know about the cards. You never told her
Yes,
about that.
never told her.
Hmm. Okay. That is a great story. Do you know whatever happened to her later in life?
I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I passed that, when she was a freshman, and we stayed in contact a little bit, but past that, I don't know.
Oh, gosh, that's great how it helped. You know, one thing that I know the audience is going to like because I know that they love the spiritual part and they like the psychics and the mediums, but you don't have to be that way. You can learn the system and to be able to help people that way and to be able to find out about yourself through your system. That's really
Exactly.
cool. And I'm going to just go off topic. Do you teach classes?
Ooh, great question. Actually, you mentioned about this being a great tool for parents and for
Yes.
educators.
Hmm.
And of course, my book is written for parents and for educators to use. And I have had so many people ask me about classes that I am in the process right now, Karen, of developing some curriculum. And I'm going to launch a class for teachers for the summer, because that's a good time for teachers to take like
Donna,
classes and things like that.
do you accept retired teachers?
Of course I do.
Because I'm going to be in that class.
Oh, well, that would be fantastic to have
Not
me
on
in.
students, just for relationships,
Yes.
and how to. I just am. That'll be so cool. So put me down on your list, okay?
Okay, I will do that.
And anybody else at the end of the video, she'll have all her contact information so you can reach out to her too. And if by chance you can't, you can always reach out to me and I'll get you in contact with her. I am blown away. I seriously am. This is just wonderful. This can help so many parents, so many teachers.
Yeah.
Oh,
And speaking of parents, I'm after I do my class where I'm really just honing in on teachers. I will also develop a class for parents as well, because I do work with parents to understand their children better through the lens of their card and help them navigate some, challenging situations with their kids.
so they could use that with your book too.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
very seriously cool.
I'll give you an example of that. How about that?
Okay. I like examples.
So I teachers do, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of a thing we like. So this actually happened last year about this time. I had these clients with a 5-year-old son who, based on his birth date, his birth card was a four of diamond. And fours are all about stability. Think about four in our lives, like four wheels on a car or the
Uh-huh.
four legs of the chair that we're both sitting on.
Right.
Um, Four is all about stability and structure. And so a person who is born as a four card really needs a lot of routine. They need expectations to be very clear. They need structure. They need to feel secure and stable in their environment. And so this young man was going through some instability in that his parents had just put their house for sale.
Oh.
And they were in the process of buying a new house as well. And of course, real estate, you can't ever count on a specific timeline when it comes to that
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so, sadly, it just happened that he had to start a school that was zoned for his current residence, and he was starting kindergarten. And then the move
Oh, he was
happened a
young.
month later, so he had to move to a whole nother school.
Oh.
And so
Wow.
that was like, if you think of again the metaphor of a chair, when one leg is pulled off, the chair falls over, right?
Mhm.
And so he
Mhm.
was exhibiting that through his behaviors.
Oh,
At his new
no.
school, he was being resistant to directions.
Mhm.
He was being a little defiant with his teacher. He was really antsy and getting up in inappropriate times and visiting and talking out of turn, interrupting other students when they were talking.
Wow.
And so the teacher contacted my clients and talked about these behaviors and started the
Mhm.
discussion of, well, maybe he has attention deficit disorder.
Uh-oh.
And she was thinking he might need medication.
Mhm.
So they were very upset about that and they came to me.
Mhm.
So looking at his cards, I'm like, oh no, this is not a case of ADHD. And by the way, there are cards of people who are more prone to attention deficit disorder, but it's definitely not a four of diamond. So
Okay.
I told him that this behavior was very situational. And there is something in psychology called situational ADHD, by the way. And that's exactly what he was exhibiting. And so what I did is I talked through a plan with them, understanding that because of his card, he needed a lot of structure and routine. Now,
Mhm.
as a former teacher, that the first couple weeks of school, that's when the teacher goes
Assist.
through all the routines,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
All of the
Mhm. Mhm.
expectations,
And he
all of
missed that.
the schedule, and he missed all of it,
Mhm.
specific to the expectations of that teacher.
Oh, wow.
So I encouraged them to go back to the teacher and see if she would be willing to reteach some of that and then kind of set it up along with a behavior plan for him. Also, the move was so chaotic that they were still living in boxes.
Oh,
There were boxes in his room and boxes in the family room. And so I said, that's got to change. His environment needs to be more structured.
mhm.
So I suggested that they unpack and really organize his room, the family room where, he was spending a lot of his time after school,
Mm-hmm.
and then also having some structure around dinner time and being able to have like discussions such as the how was school today kind of discussions.
Oh, okay.
And so they did that. And Karen, a month later, he was totally fine.
Didn't have to take medication either.
Didn't have to take medication.
Not that there's anything wrong with meds, but if you don't need it,
Correct.
you don't want to take it.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Donna, that is so cool. Oh my gosh. Is there anything else you want to mention before I ask a question? Because you're doing pretty darn good here.
Oh, go ahead with your questions.
Okay. Um, so basically, how do you connect with the playing cards during a reading? Do you just use the what it says in your book? Is that what you use, or do you need any special skill?
Mhm. Well, I use two things actually. I use just my knowledge of the cards, as well as particularly my experiential knowledge. If you think about it, over the course of all of my over 30 years of teaching, I've interacted with thousands of different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So I not only was able to understand the personality of the cards from what I'd learned about, but also what experience was teaching me about the cards by interacting with all of these different students and personalities. So I use that in my readings, but I also use my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
The Queen of Club is my playing card. And as I mentioned earlier, the name of that card is the Mother of Intuition. So I
Mm-hmm.
happen to be the most intuitive card of all the playing cards. So I really try to tap into my intuition when I'm doing the
Awesome.
reading.
Mm-hmm.
And the process that I use for that is that prior to any kind of a reading, I try to ground myself, and
Oh, you
then
do.
I do. I think
Mm-hmm.
grounding practices for practitioners is really important. And then I ask my guides to help me through my readings by giving me messages. And I just get these hits of just thoughts in my head and as I'm doing the readings. And then finally I also have, which you experienced, I have a software system that I use
Yes.
that shows me not only the cards that are associated with a person that I'm reading,
Mm-hmm.
but also reveals the yearly energies that they'll experience. Now, I haven't
Yes.
talked about that yet.
No, that's very cool. I think you need to tell about that. And then I want to interject during that of something you did. So yes, talk about the yearly energy because to me it sounds like a solar chart.
Right,
From
right.
birth date to birth date. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
And
so
you guys, this is so cool. This is
yeah,
so cool. This is what she did for me and for Tracy and everybody at the fair.
right. So, what interests me is that everyone's heard of tarot, but very few people have heard of cardology. And yet, tarot is a spin off of cardology. Cardology is the original divination tool.
No.
It is indeed.
Before tarot?
Before tarot, tarot grew out of cardology, out of the playing cards.
Really?
Yes, in fact, there's some similarity between the minor arcana of tarot cards. So, as an example, all of the heart cards, like an ace of heart, would be like an ace of cups.
Oh,
So there is similarity, but it grew out of the knowledge of playing cards.
oh my
And the
God.
way that the playing cards are a divination tool is that each birth card is predestined to experience these yearly energies. And I have this software that prints out all of these yearly energies that a person will experience any
Mm-hmm.
given year. And when I say year, I don't mean calendar year. I mean like your age, your birthday year. So
Right.
one starting the day of your birthday and then going to the next year.
Right.
Now, when I use the word predestined, a lot of people are like, oh, so everything's like predetermined, right?
No, not
No,
necessarily.
exactly. The way that it works is these predestined energies are meant to keep a person on their path, because each birth card has a very specific purpose and lesson that they're to learn during their lifetime. So each year you will take in these energies, but then every person has free will and you get to
Right.
manifest those energies based
Mm-hmm.
on the choices that you make.
Mm-hmm.
There are higher and lower manifestations of energy too. So I'll give you an example of that. So 2 years ago, I saw in my yearly spread of energies that my main energy that I would be experiencing for that year was a three of club. And the three of club in its higher manifestation is creative expression. It's the writer's card. It's in
Ah,
fact Stephen King. It's his birth card. That's why he's such a prolific writer, is because he's the writer's
he never
card.
stops.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
so scary.
exactly. So the lower expression of that same card energy is stress and
Oh.
anxiety. And if you think about it, those two
Oh.
manifestations are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're experiencing a year of energy where you have all this creative ideas inside you and you
Mm-hmm.
don't express them, they get bottled up and
Yep.
can create stress.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a choice. Are you going to express them or in some kind of creative way, or are you going to
Yeah,
stress out for the year? Well, seeing that, of course, I wanted to leverage the higher manifestation of that
of
energy.
course. Yeah.
So that was the year that I wrote my book.
When did you write your book? How long's that been out?
So it has been out for a year.
Okay, for a year. Okay. uh, Anything else before I go on?
Well, these yearly energies
Mm-hmm.
are amazingly accurate. They can kind of explain or predict what energy you'll experience in different areas of your life. So, for example, whether you'll have a new relationship,
Mm-hmm.
whether you have the energy for that, whether you have new work opportunities, what will be your financial status over the next year, what kind of health status might you have over the next year, are you going to be moving or not?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing these energies ahead of time can be really empowering for a person
Extremely.
because they can, as I mentioned earlier, like leverage them to their highest manifestation. I like to tell my clients a
Mm-hmm.
story that I just found fascinating when I was reading a book on Taoism.
Mm-hmm.
And the story goes like this. There were a group of intellectuals who were on a hike, and they were hiking to a waterfall. And this waterfall was so powerful that there were signs there saying no swimming. It was
Mm-hmm.
just too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And as they got closer to this waterfall, they saw a body bobbing up and down where the falling water hit the still water and was churning up and down. And they're like, oh my goodness, someone went swimming and they drowned. And then they started to try to figure out how they were going to get in there to get the body out. And as
Mm-hmm.
they're arguing with each other about what to do, all of a sudden they notice out of the corner of their eye that a man is getting up out of the water. And they
Oh,
look over and realize that it was the body that they saw bobbing up and down in the water.
okay.
So they rush over to him and they say to him, how did you survive that? We thought you were dead. And the old man said, it was really simple. When the water went up, I went up. And when the water went down, I went down. And in Taoism, that's what's referred to as the way. It's a
Mm-hmm.
big part of their life motto is that a person is to align themselves, their behaviors with the energies. And that's what I always tell my clients. It's good to know what the energies are for your year so that you can align your
Align
behavior
yourself.
to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you go up in the water when you need to and
You
down
go
in the water
down.
when you need to.
That's an incredible metaphor. It really is. That's a great story. So this reminds me of a solar chart too. A
Yes.
planetary chart, but yours is broken down kind of the same way. The financial relationships and all these different moves. So when she was doing my reading at the fair, we did the year thing, and then she's very gracious. You have to know she's very gracious. So then I'm not real happy with some of the things she's telling me. And so I keep asking questions. So she would look in the upcoming year to see how that energy would change or impact me. So you could even get more information, not just for that year. And I found that pretty fascinating too. And I'm going to go look back at everything after this interview. I
Yeah. Because
want
the
to.
energies are what I find is the energies are very progressive in nature.
Mm-hmm,
So, an example of that would be I can see a yearly energy where there is an ace of heart at play. And the ace of heart represents like a new relationship, new love, a
mm-hmm,
time when a person maybe is just starting to get out there in the dating world again, right?
mm-hmm.
Maybe even doing a little bit of work on themselves too, because the ace of heart can also represent self-love. But that is an important part of getting ready for a new relationship is to learn to love yourself.
Yes.
And then the next year, I might see a progressed kind of a card energy. I might see a two of heart. And the two of heart is the card of union and love, where you find a partner, where
Same
there's
tarot.
there's another person in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 3 years beyond that, I might see a four of heart. And the four of heart represents marriage. So that two of heart relationship could progress into an eventual marriage or stability in some
Mm-hmm.
kind of a committed relationship. Doesn't have to be marriage.
So I just thought of something as you're talking. Let's say that someone is in, this is not me, audience, this is not me. Let It was just something I thought of. Someone is interested in someone and they could have their birth date and find out if they were compatible too. Would that
Yes,
work?
I have software for that, Karen.
You do have software for that. That
I
is very cool.
do.
So you can find out if they're compatible.
Exactly. So I can do as part of, and I have this on my website where I can do love analysis reports. So what the software
Oh my
does is
gosh.
it takes the two cards, because each person is actually associated with two playing cards. I haven't talked about that second card much, but the birth card being your main personality, your authentic self. The second card is called the planetary ruling card, which is how you appear to others, how you show up in the world. But taking those two cards of you and then putting it with the card of another person and looking for relationship connections,
Oh,
looking
very
at past
cool.
lives, looking at compatibility.
You
And
can tell
that has
past
been,
lives if they've been together too?
oh, for sure. Let me show you something here that I have a
Okay.
little
On your
visual for.
chart. I
Yes.
want you to show the chart.
So this is actually my birth chart.
Oh, is it?
Yes. And I like how you mentioned before that there's some like connection to astrology. You can think of
Mhm.
cardology as being a merging of like numerology and astrology. And so here in my life spread,
Yeah.
You can see the planets. So Mercury, Venus,
Oh,
Mars,
yes.
and those represent energies in different areas of your
Mhm.
life that are ruled by those planets. Now, the life spread would be very similar in astrology to your birth chart. I like
Okay.
to think of it
Hmm.
as like these are the cards that you're dealt with at birth, right?
That's
Like,
good.
as the saying goes, like it was in the cards. These are the cards I've been dealt. So these are my cards,
Hmm.
and in Jupiter here, you can see two playing cards. Jupiter as a planet represents opportunities for success. And the two cards that I have in my spread are the Ace of Spade and the Three of Club. We
Hmm.
already talked about the Three of Club energy. That's the writer's card.
Hmm.
So just looking at my spread, you could say that an opportunity of some success for me would be through creative expression and writing.
Writing.
And that has been true for
And you
me.
did that.
And the Ace of Spade happens to be the metaphysical card. So it also indicates that an area or an opportunity for success with me would be in doing metaphysical work. And that obviously is also true.
Hmm.
But here's the real crazy thing about the life spread: people who you have predestined relationships show up in your life spread. So, really
Wow,
significant
really?
relationships show up here.
Wow.
So, again, using my spread, my and it's way over on this side.
Hmm.
My reward card in my life spread is a nine of club. And my first husband was, lo and behold, a nine of club.
Oh.
And so he represented a reward for me in this lifetime. And sadly, he passed away 10, actually 10 years from tomorrow.
Oh, oh,
He passed away 10 years
sorry.
ago. Thank you.
I am.
But a reward. I mean, my got my son out of it, who I absolutely adore, and has been such a blessing in my life.
Hmm.
Um, I am remarried though, and my current husband, guess what? His card is in my life spread.
Is it?
Yes, he's a seven of heart, and he appears in Saturn. Now, Saturn is a planet that's known for being restrictive, for being a burden in a person's life, but it's also the energy of commitment,
Oh,
and it's also the teacher. And so he plays that role for me, that he has taught me a lot of things
mm.
and has also taught me that that men can be really committed, and not stray. Because
Oh,
in
good.
between husbands, I was dating a lot of men who were not committed.
Ah, and you had the advantage because you could look up their card.
Exactly. It's funny because my son, like, he's been dating.
Uh-huh.
And like I get these text messages like, "Mom, look up this birthday." Is this
Well, that's great.
yeah.
Well, I'm
So,
going to be calling you up. Between you and all the psychics I know, this person does not have a chance. It's either yes or no, you know? Yeah. Oh
right.
gosh, Donna, we're coming to an end here, but I feel like we could talk and talk and talk some more. You have so much to offer. Did I get very far with your information? Are you
Oh, absolutely.
okay?
And let me tell you a little bit more about the book, what the
Yes,
book can
bring
do.
out the book.
So the book, Unlocking the Potential of Children, is good not just for parents and teachers,
Hmm.
but also if you're trying to understand relational dynamics with someone that might be dealing with some like childhood trauma. This is really insightful to kind of understand maybe what their life challenge has been that they haven't resolved.
Oh.
I have a practitioner friend who gave this to a relative of hers, my book, for a Christmas present. And she'd been really struggling and going to counseling. And she read the whole chapter on her card description and she literally started to cry. And she said, "Gosh, I wish I knew this about myself years
Years
ago.
ago.
This is just spot on, so
Mhm.
accurate." So it is helpful to understand just personalities in your life, and then also how to nurture those different personalities. So, as an example, I have a really good friend who's a two of diamond, and twos are all about one-on-one quality time.
Mhm.
That is not a friend that you go to lunch with and like talk on your phone or text other
Oh.
people how you're with them.
Yes. Mhm.
Like that is a big,
No, no.
no.
Mhm.
Well, I understand the energy dynamics of that through the lens of her card. And so I know I describe not only the personality of each card, but how to nurture those characteristics of their personality. And then also how to manage the challenges.
Wow.
So it can be, again, it's something that can help anybody. And it's 300 pages. It's quite comprehensive.
Okay, that book looks not challenging, but I picked it up and I thought, oh, holy God, this is a lot to read. But you need to explain a little bit about that. So people won't go, this is too much. I can't handle it. Because you
Well,
explained the book. Yeah.
yeah. So the first couple chapters gives just the history of cardology
Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit of a background about the, as I mentioned, the divination piece of it,
Mm-hmm.
and about the different personality types. And then there's a chapter on how to use the book.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part is that the rest of the book, you can read just parts of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if you, for instance, had a child who was a five of heart, you could just flip through and just read the chapter about a five of heart
Right.
to understand that. And then maybe your friend is an eight of diamonds. So you just go to that chapter and you read about that card.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's and there, and in the beginning of the book there is a chart. There's charts like this that
Mm-hmm.
show all of the birthdays and what the associated cards are.
That's very cool. I got to get your book. I wish I would have got it there and you could have signed it for me. Oh, well.
You'll just have to meet up with me again, and we can take care of that.
You know, you live in Portland. I'm in Tigard. I'm down for
Good.
that. Okay. Yeah, I would love to have a signed copy. There was something else I was going to ask you. Gosh darn it, it went out of my head. Um, oh, well. Donna, this has been fascinating. And I love learning new things. And I learned so much from you today. So I really appreciate that. And I know the audience has too. Tracy, God bless her for taking me over to your booth because, you know, I knew nothing. So I would have just carried on. Yeah, I didn't know your value. I'm sorry. I do now,
Oh,
though.
well, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay,
You
Donna.
came around. It was all
Huh?
good. You came around, so it was all
I
good.
get. Well, I wanted to give her space too. I didn't want to hear her reading, you know, in case, you know, she. And then but you were still talking, so I just came back.
Yeah.
Then I
I,
thought this is interesting.
yeah. And I actually love working with skeptics because, I mean, think about my background.
Yeah, teaching.
My like undergrad degree too it was in the sciences. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I'm taught, you're taught that this is a
Mm-hmm.
pseudoscience.
Oh, I
But
know. There's yeah, I
over
know.
time,
I know.
yeah. So
I had that conversation with somebody this weekend, a family member. I remember what I was going to ask you now. Okay, so you're doing a class for teachers and you're doing a class for parents. Are you going to do a class for just like plain old people that want to know?
yes, I am going to, that'll
Perfect.
be the plan C, I guess. So the next option would
Awesome.
be just to teach people about cardology, teaching them how to do it themselves so
Yes.
they can apply it to their own life and to their family and friends.
So I would tell my listeners right now, raise your hand. How many of you are going to go do that class? Yeah, a lot of you. I know. Okay. Donna, don't get off. I want to talk to you afterwards, but I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure having you on.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really
Okay.
appreciate you for that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to sign us off now. Thank you.